committee meetings today, so didn't have to do that. I appreciate it. Thank you, AIF. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and talking about such a important topic. He called me an expert. I learned off of YouTube, so I mean, but nowadays, that cybersecurity and practices are you can learn them anywhere, and they're often something that is in the cyber domain where a lot of people don't really see, they don't really pay attention to. But a lot of folks, especially coming out of the military, my senior developer is an Army Ranger. So learning these different skills coming out was very important to us. So when I decided to make this plunge into politics, and you're on the campaign trail, you often make campaign promises and all these things. Oddly, one of mine was cyber, putting attention to the cybersecurity into the state of Florida, knowing the vulnerabilities that are out there, knowing a lot of the issues that we come across. And when I got to the legislature, Speaker Sprowls was like, "Listen, you're my guy. We're gonna work together on this cyber stuff." And so we started putting together this bill, the 1297, the cybersecurity package that we put together for Jamie Grant, who's currently our CIO. I think he's going to be here later today or tomorrow. But we started going through, we put everything together. So at the end, I was like, this is like an operations plan, not like a policy. So I had to retrain my brain to not think of things as a hands-on type of, you can't do that in policy. So I had to think a little bit more at the 50,000 foot level, creating the Cybersecurity Council, appropriating the funds, requiring a framework for a standard that everybody went by. And so usually bills go through multiple committees, and mine went through 3 committees. And I knew that I was the only one that really knew what I was talking about when nobody asked me a single question. And so that's good for me, but it can be challenging for everybody else. So for our state. So I relied a lot on partners from AIF and from different organizations to help me craft it, because there's unintended consequences and there's second and third order effects to everything that we do, especially in legislation, right? Sometimes we're crafting these things and they're great and but then you find out it has a negative consequence, second and third order later. So I wanted to make sure that when we wrote the policy, we were not screwing up the private sector industry in any way, and making it better. So now, kind of after I got my first session underneath my belt, kind of thinking, what can we do as a state in the future to kind of look at as terms of cyber and cybersecurity, right? That invisible domain that touches every layer, sea, land, air. It touches everything. And so there's 4 things that I think that are going to be extremely important for us as a state as a whole. And some of them we're kind of touching on now, and I think that we have been, but I think that we need to kind of jumpstart it and really kick it off even harder. First of all is policy. And we started it off this last year trying to fix the state, right? The state had some issues. You can't go out and say, hey, we want everybody to do this, but we're not doing it ourselves, right? So we had to take a really close look. And we were very fortunate to have the governor appoint Jamie Grant to the CIO role, because Jamie does have a technical background. And he knew, some of the things. He knew the legislative side, and he also, now he's diving into that C-suite, that senior role side. So he knew some of the things that we had to do. So we worked close together on crafting some of those things. And I think that looking at critical infrastructure, right? What does that look like policy-wise? Right? What do we do over here to ensure that we're creating the right environment for our utilities, for our power grid? There's a lot of vulnerabilities that we have around the state. For all the other, our transportation, and those things are ports, right? All of those things are going to be very important. And then policy-wise, what are we going to do for the private sector community? How do we enable the private community to help us at the end of the day, right? Our contracting practices, right? Software. I mean, trying to find somebody to develop software now, the workforce, that's another issue, but trying to find somebody to develop software or help us, it's challenging. A lot of things are outsourced to India, Ukraine. A lot of folks are outsourcing all of these software skills outside of our country, right? That's a vulnerability in itself, right? So how do we do that policy-wise, right? The second piece to it is talent. Kind of going back to what I just said, outsourcing a lot. I have a company, we have a software, and it's hell trying to find talent. It's not easy, right? And most people want to work from home. They want to work, independent. They want to be contracted. They don't want to actually be in a physical location. They don't want to be, a regular employee. And we're fortunate that Florida, we're open for business. We have great practices for companies. We don't have any income tax. We have a great environment for people to come work out of. And I think in the future, the gig economy, those gig workers, they're going to be very important to every company, to every industry, to government. Jamie and I had a conversation about this. It's going to be very important to have that talent, right? That's current. That's something that we need now. In the future, we as government have to do a better job working with industry on STEM programs. I would love to see every university have a lab school, right? A lab school with a STEM program, learning technology, because that's an area where we don't focus on as much in school. The kindergarten all the way up. I went to A.D. Henderson Charter School out of Boca Raton. I walked into a classroom, there was kindergartners, and they were coding. So that's what we have to look to. We have to build the talent in Florida, right? That will help us tremendously as we, not just on cybersecurity, but create new innovative products, do all those things that we want to be able to do in-house here in the state. Give every business the ability to hire talented people that are here, based in Florida, that we can lock onto. I know workforce is, I've heard it a couple of times today, workforce is a challenge right now. In the short term, we have to really look to the independent contractors and that gig economy. I know California right now, they just created some policies that really restricted those independent contractors. We need to welcome that. We need to tell them, come on to Florida, right? Because we need them. We need that talent. They can't work. You can't really work as an independent. I've had a couple of CEOs of platforms that come to my office and said, hey, we had to pretty much shut down all of our California workers because they don't want the independent contractors in there, right? So we have to capitalize on somebody else's failure, and we have to bring them here. The third thing is capital. Stuff's not cheap, right? It's expensive, and I think that on two folds, to bring in more big companies, bring in more industries into Florida, but also the private equity, the venture capitalists, because we want to constantly producing new technology. I think working with our university systems, the tech transfer programs at university systems, I'd love to see it a little bit more streamlined and kind of consolidated and allow venture capital and private equity firms to come in and fund some of these things that could advance our technology to the next level, right? And that's true with cyber, right? We need new cybersecurity solutions to help us manage the interoperability across agencies, right? We need more of those things. And that capital is going to help that, right? Can't start a business. You could start a business without much capital, but to scale it, it's very difficult, very difficult. And last thing is collaboration. And we do that now. I look at this more of a public-private partnership between industry, government, ports, working together to combat these cyber adversaries. If you look at what the collaboration means, it means that we come together as, when it comes to, state-run or local government-run SOCs and have seats for private industry and those SOCs. For us to be able to work together on policy, right? Like I said, I always go to the industry. Once we craft and start trying to come up with this great idea, oftentimes it gets, there's parts of it that get pulled, right? Those second, third order effects, those unintended consequences that we don't pay attention to. Not my industry, certain areas, healthcare, all that, I don't know anything about, right? But if it touches your industry and we're creating this cybersecurity policy or anything, and now you're like, wait a minute, that's gonna do X, Y, and Z, right? We have to work together on those things. And it's very, very important, right? Talent. You know what you need. Government doesn't know what you need, right? Working together, industries being more involved with lower level education to tell us this is what our industry needs. These are the folks that we need to be successful. This is the type of talent. So sometimes you'll have these like great cybersecurity programs at these universities. They teach them all the fundamentals, but they don't know anything about different SIMs. They don't know what QRadar is. They don't know what certain programs are, right? They don't know the platforms. They learned things, and that's great fundamental, but we have to have industry involved to say, hey, these are the type of SIMs that we're using. This is the type of, these are the things that we're doing, and this is the talent that we need. This is what our requirements are as industry. All right, so all of these areas, it's very important for us to kind of come together, work together, and ensure that our infrastructure is protected. We have the talent, we have the capital, and we worked on this together, because at the end of the day, it's us versus them. First time, if you would have said 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and you were to say, China's a threat to Florida, people would laugh. Russia's a threat to Florida, Florida's government, people would laugh. Today, with the cyber domain, with no borders, and the ability to proxy yourself, to mask yourself behind, multiple IP addresses and all these different areas, they are absolutely a threat. We have to look at policy, and we have to look at things in a very different manner than what traditionally we've had to look at. We have to look at, Russia. We have to look at our drone usage. We have to look at all of those things, because now, today, we have a threat from foreign actors, and it's not them shooting a gun. It's not them, and it can be, but it's more times or not, it is a cyber attack against our infrastructure, against our ports, against our utilities, against our private companies that we need to be here. Now, we were talking earlier, there's a lot of folks from the defense community here, and if you haven't known this, defense is like at the top of the list for like a $98 to $100 billion economic impact to the state of Florida, right? The more we protect our infrastructure, the more welcoming those industries want to be into Florida, right? We protect our ports, we protect all, and infrastructure also means cyber. And that's something that I am working hard to, and we have Speaker Sprouse now, and then we have Speaker Designate Renner coming in, who is a Navy officer from the intel community. He understands what this threat would be. And so, and it's gonna be my job to help educate a lot of our other members on these things. And more, I get them calling me sometimes, and they'll call me and be like, hey, our school board just got hit with ransomware, or, different things like that. So I will talk to them about that, but it's not real until it happens to them. So that's something that myself, but all of you, we all have to work on. So I think that these 4 areas we can absolutely achieve. I think it's not unachievable, but government works slow. Ask anybody who's at the top of the chain. Our procurement process, all this stuff is it's elongated. So we have to work on those things, and those things have to come from you and say, hey, this process is messed up. This is messed up. We all need to work on these things. So again, thank you so much for having me come out here. This is such an important topic. It's very important to me, but it's important to every Floridian. Every Floridian is touched by a cyber attack or a cyber issue.